Ah, G'day guys, Hank with the Hour Circle. I just finished recording the Thousand Suns episode for getting started in Horus Heresy, and I've had some thoughts lately, and well, I thought I'd just sort of muse to myself and record me doing so. So I've been working on my white scars a lot, and a big part of, by the way, spoilers, there'll be spoilers I'm sure. So, a big part of the Path of Heaven novel, which is a White Scars novel, is about the Dark Glass project and another method that humanity was using to enter the Webway and that kind of thing. And it sort of occurred to me, hang on a minute, Magnus's folly isn't really that bad. Now, a lot of people are going to go, oh, Mackie, you're a fanboy, you love the Thousand Suns, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. The more I think about it, the more poorly written the whole Webway thing is for the Heresy. I don't know all the lore. I know a bloody lot of lore, because I've been playing this game since 2nd edition, but the thing is, I've kind of got it in my mind that the way it's written doesn't make sense. Now, there's probably people who can help me out here and in the comments below. Please point me in the right direction if you know more than I do on the subject. But the whole thing about the Webway was that, like, everyone blows out of proportion. You know, Magnus fucked humanity over if he didn't destroy the Webway, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, he just kind of destroyed the entrance to the Emperor's throne room from the Webway. That's not really that bad. Like, the way it always sounded was that, you know, the demons were going to breach right into the throne room from the Webway, but when you read the novels, especially Master of Mankind, it's like when you go through the Webway from the Emperor's throne room, you enter a city, an Eldar sort of crone city, but yet they're attacked from all directions by the demons, so there's got to be more than one breach, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. Did Magnus cause a whole bunch of breaches at once, or... I don't get it. So then I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, well, hang on a minute. There was the Dark Glass project, so that's another way of entering the Webway. But the Khan, spoilers, uses it to get back to Terra, for the Siege of Terra. So he fucks up the Webway, that's fine. Magnus fucks up the Webway, that's bad. Well, I don't get that. So the thing is, if humanity is going to enter the Webway somehow, they'll figure it out. There's lots of things around the galaxy. Dark Glass, Golden Throne, the Pharos Lighthouse, all these different alien artifacts. Ahriman in the 40k novels has got into the Webway several times. There's a lot of Webway gates and sealed Webway entrances, and apparently, according to Rise of Primarch, there's even one on the fucking moon above Terra. So if they're so common... I mean, they have to be. The Eldar use them to get everywhere in the galaxy, right? How come humanity's tied to Terra for it? And I can't quite figure this out. See, Terra is important in 40k, but not 30k when you think about it. Because in 40k, it makes sense. It's the home of the Astronomicon, and the home of the Adeptus Ministerium, and the Adeptus Administratum, and the High Lords of Terra. And of course the Emperor is on the Golden Throne there. But in the time of 30k, there is no reason at all why you couldn't just pick up and leave Terra. I mean, Terra is nowhere near the centre of the human empire. It's actually, you know, we're quite far to the galactic fringe when you think about it. You know, somewhere like the Thousand Suns homeworld, Prospero, much, much closer to the centre of the galaxy. So, or Chagoris, the White Scars homeworld, again, these planets are closer to the centre of the galaxy than Terra is by far, to the centre of the Empire. So it doesn't really make sense why the Emperor has to be on Terra. And people can say, oh, because the Astronomicon's on Terra. Well, how did they navigate in the Great Crusade? The Emperor wasn't there to run the Astronomicon, because he was out crusading as well. So how did it run when he wasn't there? I don't know. Maybe someone does. Please give me some help. Point me in the right direction here. And the more I think about it, it's like, what did Magnus do? He broke a entrance to the webway for humanity. So what? Realistically, the Emperor never had to defend Terra, if we want to use logic. The smart play would have been to pick a world maybe in the Terran system or a nearby system and channel away resources and make it the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. Don't tell the other Primarchs that it exists, and make it the Emperor's own personal retreat of sorts. I don't know, I'm just using thought here. Because Terra is like, imagine, I'll use an analogy. If Hitler has his bunker in Berlin when the Soviets are smashing through the Wehrmacht last days of the Nazi regime, he doesn't hole up in the Reichstag. He holes up in a bunker underground near the Reichstag. Well, wouldn't the Emperor do the same thing? Why hole up on Terra when he could have a nearby planet which is way more heavily defended, less likely to have infiltrators on it, doesn't have the Martian problem next door, somewhere that's entirely his? There's just no reason for it. But it's 40k, and okay, these things, they have to play out a certain way. I'm not saying I'm against it, it's just logically it doesn't make sense. So it's like, okay, the Emperor has to stay on Terra, then why do they have to fight the war in the webway? If the minute it's breached, you know you have innumerable foes coming through and you cannot possibly fight them off, why fight them at all? It's pointless, it's a waste of your time. The Custodes may as well have all just fallen straight back. The Imperium may as well completely have left the webway at an early stage instead of trying to fight for it for 7 years and lose all those Custodes, Sisters of Silence and Titans, the works. If you know it's lost, why keep trying to defend it? This is not a heroic last stand like the French at Dunkirk, making sure the British could get out. You know, this is more like Stalingrad, where you're guaranteed to lose, but rather than break out, you're being forced to stay there by someone higher up, like von Paulus was forced to stay there by Hitler. Do not leave Stalingrad. I'm using a lot of World War II analogies here. But it's a losing battle. So what really would have made sense is for the Custodes and that kind of thing to just say, yep, fuck it, let's pull out of the webway, close the gate. You know, hold the door, but they don't. Instead, they fight a war there and lose 9 out of 10,000 Custodes fighting this war, and who knows how many Sisters of Silence and all resources they could have used in the Siege of Terra. Well, it's like, including many Titans. So why fight that war if the webway is just lost? Just pull everything out, close the door. It doesn't make sense. If the Emperor could close it the whole time, why does he keep it open? None of it makes sense. They knew they couldn't fight back and win that battle. Emperor, with all his intelligence, surely would have known that you're fighting the warp. In the warp. They're innumerable foes. Every time you kill a demon, he just pops back up and goes again. You can't win. It's like that second Hellboy movie, The Golden Army, where every time they kill the automatons, they come back to life. It's like that same sort of thing. It makes no sense. So Magnus's actions really don't matter. To go further with the analogy, if Magnus hadn't fucked up the webway, but for whatever reason still gets knocked out of the war due to the actions of the traitors, the Emperor still gets turned into a fucking vegetable. In which case, he's not there to oversee the webway project anyway. He needed to be alive, properly alive, to run it and organise it and use his intellect to guide humanity and make the project function. He's dead. For all intents and purposes, the Emperor is dead in 40k. From the moment he finishes his fight with Horus, he's conscious just long enough for Dawn to install him on the Golden Throne, and that's it, he's done, dusted. So, the webway project was pointless. It was doomed to failure the minute the heresy began, because it was, always going to end with Horus and the Emperor mutually killing one another, So, Magnus's, what he did to the Golden Throne and to the webway doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It doesn't matter. You know? Why did the Webway portal open into an Eldar city straight out of the Emperor's throne room? I don't know. That makes no fucking sense to me. Nothing about the way the Webway is constructed in the Master of Mankind makes sense to me, I guess. But nothing has explained well exactly what Magnus did is so bad, but when other people did the exact same thing, it was okay. Why humanity can't reach into the Webway through other means, really it just comes down to the Emperor is basically dead. That's the only reason we can't get into the Webway. We don't have him and his intelligence to guide us, or we've lost the knowledge about what the Webway is. Who knows what? I'm sure the Ordo Xenos of the Inquisition knows well enough what the Webway is. So yeah, there's that. That's like this big thing that got me thinking of 1,000 Suns. I'm like, wait a minute, Magnus did no wrong. And that's a meme, right? Everyone likes to say, oh, well, you know, Magnus did no wrong, but he fucked everything. What did he fuck? Nothing. Humanity still wasn't going to get into the Webway, and Jagadai Khan did just as much damage to it as Magnus did. And there was plenty of other ways to get in, I guess. That's... Like, people, please, if I'm wrong and I don't have my fluff right, please debate me in the comments below, but I'm 90% certain. The reason Terra and the Golden Throne is so important in the lore of 40k has nothing to do with the planet. There's nothing strategic about Terra. It's not like a focal convergence point for the 7 karmic winds of chakra crystals or something bullshit like that. It's just, that's where the Emperor is, and you can't exactly move the Golden Throne and move the dead Emperor to another planet. It just won't work. Terra is, you know, just is what it is. It's just, the only thing that makes it important is that the Emperor is there. So yeah, there's that. More musings about the 1,000 Suns. 1,000 Suns are a legion that relies a lot on their HQs. The minute you kill their HQs, they just sort of crumble because they lose 90% of their warp charges and all those really strong abilities, a lot of their AP2 weapons, that kind of thing. And obviously they all get the pinning tests and the can't sweeping advance. Now, I was thinking about this, and I'm like, the Osirion Dreadnought, for example, is this Dreadnought HQ option. But you take that Dreadnought, it reduces you down to now 2 characters. And it's like if either of those two or both those two characters, die, the whole force is basically fucked over because they're independent characters. The Osirion Dreadnought, the Librarian Dreadnought of the 1,000 Suns, is not. So all of a sudden, what happens is you've got to start taking those morale checks, which means you never really want more than one Osirion or one Talon of Osirions. And I was like, this is problematic. And I was looking at the Rites of War, and one of the Rites of War is called the Fury of the Ancients, and it talks about how you can run basically an all-Dreadnought army, which I thought, fuck, an all-Dreadnought army of 1,000 Suns would be pretty achievable, right? Wrong. See, to run the Dreadnought army, you need to have a Master of the Legion to unlock the Rite of War, which is either a Praetor, a Delegatus, or I think a Herald. Double checking that. I always get confused with the Herald rules, but definitely Delegatus, definitely Praetor will unlock it. So you also need a Master of the Forge and a Primus Medicae, in which case you couldn't run an Osirion Dreadnought. The only way I figured out around this was if you took Magnus the Red as your Lord of War, because then he has the Master of the Legion special rule, and you can take the Rite of War, and you can put an Osirion into that HQ slot. But it does mean that you can't run like a really fluffy list, which is just like a Forge Lord and a bunch of Psychic Dreadnoughts, which would be a fun list, not very competitive. It sounds really competitive because you think, oh, Psychic Dreadnoughts, but like Osirions are expensive, especially for what they give you. I mean, they don't have the Mortis firepower, and really, when it comes to close combat, they're no more effective than a regular Dreadnought, the exception being maybe if they were fighting a monstrous creature, something that's toughness 6, or yeah, something along that lines, because I mean, they're no more effective against Eternal Warrior than a regular Dreadnought close combat weapon. They're no more effective against Custodes than a Dreadnought with a regular close combat weapon, because again, Custodes did strength 10 will just instant kill them. which is Dreadnought Power Fist. So the Assyrians know better at that. The only thing you could kill easier is like Vorax, Castellax, Thanatar, that kind of thing. Toughness 6 stuff. But even then, you've got to get the force power off, in which case you're spending your only ability you can cast, because you're a Mastery level 1, not a Mastery 2, which would make a lot more sense. You can only sort of cast the 1 power, so you've got to just save your magic beans for the turn, wait till you're in close combat, and then activate your force weapon on your Assyrian Dreadnought, and then hope you can, fuck up the opposing miniature. So a very fluffy unit, but not a really effective one for the points. Now Sekhmet, on the other hand, the Sekhmet Terminators, everyone knows what they are. 2 types, the Tartarus and the Cataphractii. Now the Cataphractii seem to be the go-to for people, because the negatives of Cataphractii, not being able to run, for example, entirely not a problem when you have the Levitate psychic power, which happens to be telekinesis, and telekinesis is one of the 2 disciplines you're allowed. Now, thing is, if I'm using telekinesis, I'm probably going to go for Raptor Occult. Well, Raptor Occult gives me +1 invul save, and means that I get my telekinetic powers off on a 3+ instead of a 4+ for my warp charge. That's huge. So this unit gets to pick the best spells or psychic powers. They may as well be spells, because it's just a bastardized system from fantasy, which I fucking hate. Seriously, what was wrong with leadership tests for psychic powers? Like, it was a good system. Just pay the points, get a known power, and then the only random element is the psychic test you had to take. Now you've got to go through all these, like, roll a d6 for what power you get, do you swap it for a Primaris power, do you keep the regular power, roll 1 for each mastery level, forces its own power on its own card, and, roll to see if you get it off, roll to see if you dispel, and there's so many different steps, and it's so convoluted, it's such a horrible phase. But anyway, so you got the Sekhmet Terminators, and they're going to just run the same way. Everyone's not going to be creative. When I run Sekhmet, and it's very rare, I run them in Tartarus armor, and I try to do things like run them as Pyrite Cult, because then I'll run Pyromancy on them. Yeah, they're a lot worse. It's indescribable how much worse they are when you run them this way, because Pyromancy is a terrible fucking discipline to begin with. All of the spells on it are basically like bolt gun levels of power. Like, D6 strength 4 AP 5 hits on a unit within 12 inches. Wow, fucking slow fucking clap. That is just fucking shit. It'd be better off using the shrapnel rounds in my bolt guns to do the damage. And then this whole overpriced thing of Soul Blaze. They throw Soul Blaze under 3/4 of the powers in Pyromancy. It's like, Soul Blaze is shit. Soul Blaze gets like 1 kill a game. You could, if I loaded up like 5 squads full of Pyromancer units running Pyromancy discipline, I'd get like 1 bonus kill from Soul Blaze. Because like on a 5+, it causes like a single strength 4 hit on a squad. Oh no, and I mean, you have to cause actual casualties in the first place for Soul Blaze to go off, and then you've got to roll a d6 each turn. If you fail to roll high enough, it just dissipates. No more Soul Blaze. But for some reason, it's touted as like one of those awesome abilities. Same as Fear. Fear is another one of those ones with like Night Lords. I know I'm getting off topic being Thousand Suns, but Fear is just... I kind of spoke about it briefly on the episode, but Fear is like, you pay all these points for something that against Leadership 9 doesn't really work. Against Leadership 10 definitely doesn't work. Against Leadership 8 occasionally works, and only really starts to come into its own against Leadership 7 and Leadership 6. And even then, like, what units are Leadership 6, Leadership 7? Imperial Militia? What the hell are Imperial Militia going to do against a squad of Night Raptors? What are Imperial Militia going to do against Conrad Kurz? They're hitting me on like 6s anyway. So, like, what the fuck? It's such a pointless thing for you, but you pay all these points for it. And then Look at a lot of the other units out there. Most of the Mechanicum is fearless. All the monstrous creatures in the Mechanicum are fearless, or cause fear themselves. On top of that, there's no like bonus for stacking fear. So like if you put trophies of judgment on a Castellax or a Vorax, for example, they don't become more scary. They're not like -2 to your leadership check or something. No, they cause fear. So it's wasted points. Anyway, oddly enough, Thousand Suns units. So one of the things I like to think about is Alpha Legion. Alpha Legion are really strong, especially with one of their abilities, their Rites of War. They're able to take a unit, a specialist unit, from another legion and run it in their own. That is really strong. The number one go-to is either Tyrant Siege Terminators or Invictus Suzerain from the Ultramarines. Both are really solid options, and their Legion bonuses aren't what make them strong, they're just strong units. The Sekhmet could kind of work for that, for the Alpha Legion, but the thing is, the Cults are a Thousand Sun Legion special rule. You lose the Cult. Now, once you lose the Cult, these Legion units become a lot weaker, because all of a sudden, they don't generate their power on a 3+, they generate on a 4+. They don't get that 3+ invul save anymore. So, all of a sudden, you're just sort of, they're actually a worse unit, but you're paying the same points for them. Now, that said, an Alpha Legion army running Sekhmet would probably be balanced, because they wouldn't be always getting off their powers anywhere near as easily. They also wouldn't have the massive power dice pool to pull from. You see, the funny thing about Thousand Suns army is everything just about is a Psyker in the elites and HQ sections, with the notable exception of command squads. Like, seriously, who the fuck wrote this book? Command squads, the most, the greatest warriors and scholars of the Legion form the command squads, captains to be, but then none of them are Psykers. Fucking stupid rules. So, you generate a lot of power dice, like Praetor, there's 3 dice. 2 consuls, one might be a librarian, there's another 2, so that takes up to 5. And then the last consul might be just some regular dude with a mastery of 1. So there's 6 power dice. Then you get a squad of Sekhmet, now you're up to 8 power dice. A squad of Legion, veteran, tactical marines, 9 power dice. So straight off the bat there, you've got a lot of power dice, and that's just with 2 elite units and your 3 HQs. So 9 power dice plus an additional D6 each turn. That's a lot of power dice to play with for powers, and believe me, that is a very standard amount of power dice to see for a Thousand Suns army. There are people out there who run dual librarians and a Mastery 3 Praetor, or if people want to be really scary, Praetor, Ahriman, and Amon, which Ahriman's a Mastery 4, the Praetor and Amon are both Masteries of 3, so straight away that's 10 power dice there. Then your Segment takes you up to 12. You start to get, you see this snowball effect starts to happen of power dice where they're just flying at you thick and fast. Now, for the Word Bearers don't care, because they just run that awesome Rite of War that is absolutely terrible against everyone, like Cursed Earth or something, I can't remember off the top of my head, but whenever you play against them, all doubles actually cause Perils of the Warp. Now, that's pretty funny because it's just such a hard counter to the Thousand Suns. These Word Bearers, Rite of War, which is terrible, all of a sudden becomes amazing against Thousand Suns, but it's a traitor Rite of War for the Word Bearers. So it's like, hang on a minute, like the two don't work together at all. Then you got other things like the Sisters of Silence, which are something I really dislike the way their rules work, because they're just an automatic hard counter to Thousand Suns. The Sisters of Silence, they're balanced. They're not like the Custodes part of the Talons of the Emperor list, which is unbalanced, but I find it very insulting that I have to pay 25 points for each mastery level on my Thousand Suns. And I go up against a Sisters of Silence player, and they just automatically have like Adamantium Will, Psychic powers don't affect them, all this kind of bullshit. And it's like, hang on, why do I have to pay all these points, go through this huge random process, maybe not even come out the other side with a power I actually fucking want? Happens all the time on Mastery Level 1 units. You roll a dice and it'll be something crap like Flame Shield, get a 5+ invul. Oh, wow, geez, please stop the presses. nobody can stand this rape train. So I go through this huge random process, and then I end up against Sisters of Silence, and they're just like, yeah, well, your power doesn't work. It's like, fucking, what? And then, like, my guys start dying just being too close to them. You start taking damage, and the plus side to it is that Sisters are pretty brittle. But once you add, like, a Sisters HQ option into a unit of Custode, that's where it gets scary. And this is the thing that people haven't really started doing yet in Heresy, is there's two really hard counters to the Thousand Suns. I tell them to you right now, so everyone knows and get it out of the way, because Thousand Suns are an overpowered legion. You take a squad of Custodes with a Sisters of Silence HQ and a Sisters of Silence heavy support squad with grenade launchers as an allied detachment to your army. This is very cheap on points. Nobody's going to complain that you're cheesing it up if you've only got like 3 Custodes as a troop's choice from a Custodes army, and you're running Sisters of Silence. They're generally the weaker half of the army, and people find them very balanced. Now, those Sisters of Silence, on the other hand, well, the Sister HQ, she runs in the Custodes, and it's just a psychic passive buff to that unit, or maybe you attach her to another part of the army. So, anyway, that's not the killer part. The killer part is the 10 grenade launchers. You see, the grenade launchers fire those stupid grenades that are small blast, and if they hit you, you have to take an automatic Perils of the Warp. So you fire 10 of those, even Magnus the Red is fucked, because you just got to roll 10 Perils tests. Oh, well, Magnus isn't fucked, I shouldn't say that, but every time you roll a 1 is removed from play. Now Magnus he gets to re-roll that. So chance of rolling the 1 is a lot slimmer, but still it's removed from play. You're just gone. You're just sucked into the warp. This can affect even a Psychic Warlord Titan. This Warlord Titan rocks up and you just like, roll 10 dice, Warlord Titan. Hope you don't roll a single 1. The averages say you'll roll like a 1.77 of those or something will be 1s. And the minute you do that, the Psychic Warlord just 3,500 points just gets sucked into the fucking warp. Yeah, that's the hard count of the Thousand Suns. And I say to people, remove the HQs and the Thousand Suns crumble. Not just because the HQ is strong, you've got plenty of strong units in Thousand Suns, but because you lose all those power dice that they generate, which in turn generate the spells that you cast. So that 10 grenade squad is the most terrifying thing on earth. And if you put them in a Sisters transport, for example, you can deep strike on, or you can outflank onto the table, and then deploy and then fire. So you fire 10 of those into, say, a Sekhmet squad. They're Brotherhood of Psychers. Everyone in the squad has to take however many hits, that many tests. That could be insane. They could be talking like 50, 60 dice. Every time you roll a 1, a Sekhmet Terminator goes gone, just into the warp. And if your Praetor's in there, or Magnus the Red is, that's going to cause huge problems. And again, when someone suffers Perils of the Warp in a Thousand Suns army, every single unit has to take a pinning test. So you kill like 6 or 7 Sekhmet Terminators by them rolling 1s on the 50 dice that you've just made them roll because you cover them in 10 small blast templates. That's 6 pinning tests for every single unit in the army. Statistically, each unit will fail 1 test. So yeah, that's pretty fucking hectic. That's the hard counter, and the scary thing is that is really cheap in points. You're doing like a probably 300 point hard counter. The 3 Custodes cost you like, I don't know, 100 points, something like that, 130 points. Sisters HQ, they're cheap, they're like 70 points. Get it out how you like, as long as you don't go for like the really expensive shit. And then you're paying for the grenade launcher squad. Could be the 5 Sisters, or go for the full 10 Sisters for just the real strong fuck you. And if you put them in the transport, let's say another like 70 or 80. I can't think of all the points off the top of my head. I know a lot about the Heresy. I do all my videos pretty much off the top of my head for getting started in the Horus Heresy. I know all the rites of war. I know what most of the items of war gear do, and I should say I know all the rites of war. Sometimes I slip up, but I come from that time period where you used to have to remember everything, and it used to be really easy. I know I'm getting off topic here, but 2nd edition, especially 3rd edition, there was so many less factions, so many less units, like Space Marines Codex, for example. Let me think of it off the top of my head. There was 3 HQ profiles for 3 tiers of commander. There was a Librarian profile, a Chaplain profile. So those were the 5 HQ types. There was Command Squad, which included the Apothecary at the time, as part of the Command Squad, and the Tech Marine was also part of the Command Squad. So that's just 1 unit, so that's 6 units we're up to. Then you had a Land Speeder Squadron, 7 units. There was Terminators and Assault Terminators, so now we're up to 9 units. There was Space Marine Tactical Marines and Scouts, that takes up to 11. On top of that, there was dedicated transports, the Rhino and the Razorback, 13 units. The Land Raider, 14 units. Vindicator, 15. Whirlwind, 16. Predator, 17. That, to the best of my knowledge... Oh, Assault Marines, bikes, and attack bikes. So that's 20. 20 units in the entire Space Marine Codex back in 3rd edition. And War Gear was like a page for like all the weapons. There wasn't really that much weapon variety. It was like your bolt pistols, bolt guns, heavy bolters, or there was no autocannons in that. It was assault cannons. They were the 3-shot kind, no rending, because rending didn't exist, and the triple ones was a jam. Fun times. But yeah, 20 units in the whole Space Marine army, and a lot of them had the same stat line. So really, really easy to remember, right? And then, as time's gone on, each edition added like 2 or 3 new units, and then they added in like universal special rules that you had to remember, so like your Rending, your Zealot, Furious Charge, all that kind of thing started getting added in 4th edition. That all started in 3.5 Chaos Codex actually, which was pre-4th edition, but very much 4th edition thing. So more and more stuff you had to remember. And we got to the point sort of at the end of 7th there, where everyone didn't know what the fuck was going on. They knew their own faction, but that was about it. Only people who sort of played a lot of tournaments or played like 3 or 4 different armies would know all the rules. And I sort of come from that time period, like I say, where you used to know everything. And the downside is you start to try and memorize these things. Like, okay, I know that the Phoenix Spear of the Emperor's Children will be +1 strength on the charge and go to AP2, but otherwise fights as AP3 and two-handed a lot of the times. And I know that off the top of my head, but I start to forget simple rules. Like, I forget sometimes what order I want to charge my units in, because I forget, Overwatch exists, or that, if 2 units charge an overwatching unit, and I'll have a unit, I think, oh fuck yeah, this guy's going to charge me, I'll overwatch him, I'll fuck his stuff up, and then he'll be like, okay, I'm going to charge like this 1 remaining Marine from this squad into you first. It's like, well, fuck, I have to overwatch him, which means I can't, use my 10-man Flamer squad to cause 10 D3 wounds to this other squad that's going to charge me and actually cause the trouble. Instead, I've got to waste it on this 1 fucking Marine for some stupid reason. I forget those kind of rules. Psychic Phase is another one that I kind of forget. And I know it sounds really bad as a Thousand Suns player, but the problem is because they make tiny little changes each edition, like 6th and 7th, and then go into like the Forge World version of 7th. And because they're so similar, you tweak a tiny little thing and you use like the last edition's version of it. And then you're like, oh, fuck. Like one of the things was, I used to know all the psychic powers off the top of my head. So, you roll your powers at the start of the game, like, oh yeah, 4, that's invisibility. And then it changed to like a 2 or something on the next edition. I was like, what? So I'd roll a 4 and think, fuck yeah, I got invisibility. And then I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. No, I didn't. And, it's just the way that writing has changed. It's not a whinge or anything. It's just like, I know so many rules off the top of my head that important things get pushed out. And, that's it makes life harder sometimes. So yeah, that's a lot of my thoughts I've been having on Thousand Suns. Kenotai Blade Occult are a fantastic unit that's priced correctly for what they do. And it's a real shame that you have such a good unit that gets overlooked or fucked on because they're Thousand Suns unit. And as a Thousand Suns player, I find myself in the same position that Eldar players are in. yeah, Eldar, right? I'm going to use them as a positive example. Maybe Tau players, something like that. And that... I've been playing Thousand Suns since before there were really Thousand Suns. I know it sounds a bit strange, but I've been playing since 2nd edition, and Chaos is a very different beast back in 2nd edition. Thousand Suns, as we know it, are more of a 3rd edition thing, where they were pretty much just a 2-wound Chaos Space Marine. But I have been playing Thousand Suns for a really, really long time, and I built up a big army of them. I had collected more than 6,000 points by the time they finally got rules in the Heresy. And now I'm up to about 8,500, 9,000 fully painted points of Thousand Suns, let alone like their allies, like from their own Forge World and that kind of thing. And but you get, it's the stigma. You get thrown in like, oh, a Thousand Suns player. Fuck, just had it with you guys. So many of you. You're all fuckwits. You're all whack players. No, I'm not. No one has ever complained my list is overpowered, ever. And that's in 20-something years of playing Thousand Suns. I'm not a whack player. I just love Thousand Suns. That's why I've been collecting them and playing them for so long. I love ancient Egypt. I love ancient Rome, ancient Greece, ancient Egypt. I find things about like Sumeria interesting. I love ancient Indian history as well. In fact, Indian history is pretty cool in general. Chinese history, I don't mind. Japanese history, I'm a big fan of the Sengoku Jidai period. The Warring States, but like overall, Japanese history, I'm not a weeaboo at all. I'm not a big fan of katanas and samurai swords in general. After all, samurai are, the way of the bow. The whole glorious Nippon steel folded 4,000 times for... fuck off, Europeans make better swords, and you know it. Call me a racist, I don't care. It's pride in my ancestors. Look at the Ulfbert swords from Scandinavia, made in the Dark Ages, that have like purity that we rival with modern steel. Fantastically well forged stuff. Same as Middle East, like Middle Eastern steel, fucking brilliant. Damascus steel, like proper Damascus steel, not the acid dip stuff we use today to get that wood grain effect. No, the stuff that was actually hand worked. Mongolian history I find really fascinating. In fact, Mongolia is one of those places, if I ever had like a sabbatical, took time off work and just travelled the world, I'd love to go to Mongolia. I think that's partly why I like the White Scars, because I think I'd just love to live that nomadic life for a bit. I do love spending sort of time in the Australian bush and hunting and, getting my own food and fishing and living off the land. I can do all that, did it back in the army, and yeah, I love that. I love camping and going out there in my spare time. And, this whole love of history of mine, and especially ancient history in the ancient world and the marvellous things they created, is part of what drew me to the Thousand Suns. They're kind of more like the Ptolemaic Egypt, where they've got that high fantasy Ptolemaic Egypt vibe to them, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, and, they've got all that knowledge that's been built up before, but put on top of that cultural heritage that's come before. So I love the Thousand Suns, and the same things happen to like Eldar players. They've been collecting like Biel-Tan or Siam Han since like 1st edition, and then all of a sudden they start playing Eldar 6th edition. People are like, oh, you're one of those wave serpent faggots. Fuck you, asshole. It's like, it's not his fault. Games Workshop made an overpowered and poorly written book. It's not the first time. And that's the situation Thousand Suns are in. So I do kind of dislike that fact, but I don't lose sleep over it or anything. Don't get me wrong, but it is a bit of a shame if people pull out the whole, you're just bandwagon type guy. Because I said for years leading up to Thousand Suns, they're going to be a bandwagon army. They're going to look so cool and have such interesting rules that they're going to draw a lot of people in. Especially Magnus the Red. You knew he was going to be strong. That they were going to draw a lot of people towards them the minute they released, which they did. A lot of idiots started collecting Thousand Suns the minute their rules dropped from Forge World. It's just the way of the beast, right? So, yeah, massive fan of the Thousand Suns, and I'll keep on collecting them, but they've got their problems, especially with Book 7. Book 7, Can I change topics and talk about that? I guess I can because I'm the one recording. I'm like rapid firing questions to myself. I probably got multiple personality disorder or something, but hopefully people enjoy this episode. Let me know if you don't. But Book 7, you've got things like the Eighth of Fire, Eighth of Flame cannon on 2 different pages apart on the Stellax Archaea and in the description of the weapon. How do you fuck that up in editing? Why are there pictures of tourists walking around the ruins of Prospero, sandwiched between squads of Space Wolves, Custodes, and Thousand Suns? You know, that artwork. Why are there rules like the Space Wolves, where the Space Wolves have, you must take a HQ every 1,000 points, but then all of a sudden you hit 3,000 points cap, and it's like, what then? You've only got 3 HQ slots. Now, people say, oh, well, you know, you just take more. It's like, well, no, that's not the rules. I'd be fine if you did it, don't get me wrong, but everyone listening right now knows that there's someone who has, like, Asperger's or autism or something like that, and I'm saying this in the derogatory way. We've got some great people on this channel who have autism and Asperger's, who I think are fucking awesome dudes, and they know it. You know, I'm not trying to insult them, I'm using that as a term because there are people out there who have those tendencies that will jump on you. And you'll rock up and they'll be like, well, the exact wording, the exact interpretation of this rule. And it's like an obsessive compulsive need to play things by the book. Those people, you give them Book 7, are fucked, because they don't know how to handle it. And let's be honest, the wargaming community attracts a lot of people who don't have the same social skills or maybe the same way of operating that people in other parts of society do. And that's not a negative thing, that's just the way it is. You know, since when did saying someone has a disability become a bad thing? Since when did saying someone has a learning difficulty become a bad thing? It just is what it is. Same as, like, if you call me a white prick, I'm not going to get upset about it. I am white, I am a prick. So, you know, you're disempowering people. You're saying they're too weak to defend themselves. Like, I don't get that. But anyway, Book 7. Custodes have missing items of war gear. They're listed throughout the whole army list. For example, the Misericordia, a little dagger on their hip, a little butter knife. No rules for it. Every model's armed with it. What are the rules? No one knows. It's just lots of little things like that all throughout the book. And it's a book that was delayed and delayed and delayed. Like, it was meant to be the 4th release, and they just kept pushing it back and pushing it back. And then finally they released it. They'll go, you know, we delayed it all this time because we want it to be the best book ever. And they finally released it. It's like, fucking what? This thing's full of mistakes. This isn't playtested. This isn't balanced. This is just horrible. Like the Thousand Suns. Why should a psyker be able to take a cult, like, I'm Corvidae cult, I'm really good at precognition, and then they go, this game I'm going to use telekinesis? That makes no sense. If he's going to do that, it needs to be more like in the novels, right? And I say this as a Thousand Suns fan. Again, I'm not biased here. We need to be powered down on that front. They need to say, well, alright, that's not your discipline, therefore, instead of the bonus which you get, you know, you cast on 3+, let's give you a negative. You actually now cast only on a 5+. Wouldn't that balance it? I think it fucking would. Suddenly it's not so attractive. You go, oh, hang on, I only had a 1 in 3 chance of casting the power instead of like a 2 in 3? Well, that's a big fucking difference. They're going to start throwing more dice at it. They start throwing more dice at it, more chance of perils of the warp. So it's a higher risk for the higher reward of getting your cake and eating it too. Because instead what we're seeing is this is the scary combo, right? So one of the things I don't talk about when I do the Getting Started in Heresy is the sheer level of fuckery one can make out of a Praetor, for example. A Thousand Suns Praetor. Imagine this. Paragon Blade with Scimitar Jet Bike. So you've got a 2+ armor save, your toughness 5, strength 5, AP 2 at initiative. Iron Halo. So you've got 4+ involved. You take telekinesis discipline. Cult. So now you've got a 3+ invulnerable save. And then you go, I'm going to run Biomancy. Now what happens if you get warp speed or iron armor? Oh, and take digital lasers as well. and, well, for the hell of it, take a Thunderhammer. Now, trust me, the reason will become obvious in a moment. So, you rock up, and you got to fight someone. You go, alright, if I'm fighting another Praetor, let's see if I get my Biomancy off. If I get Iron Arm, great, I'm going to be striking at Strength 8 with my Paragon Blade, and I'll be Toughness 8. I cannot be hurt by a Strength 4 model. Now, if he's got a Paragon Blade and I've got a Paragon Blade, well, okay, I'm going to get like 4 attacks base for being a Praetor. I get 5 because Digital Ages. I get 6 because I charge. I'll get a Hammer of Wrath because of the jet bikes. There's like 7 straight off the bat, but ignore the Hammer of Wrath. So there's 6 attacks. 4's to hit against another Praetor. 2's to wound. It's Strength 8. It's going to instant kill him no matter what. Unless he's a Toughness 5 Praetor. So he needs to be on a jet bike himself just to try and counter me. Right, and 1,000 Suns Praetor on a jet bike will take most characters like Sigismund even. Why the Thunderhammer, some might ask? Well, a Power Fist or a Thunderhammer is a brilliant offhand weapon to the Paragon Blade. It gives you something that has concussive. Because if I'm fighting in a challenge against another Praetor, you're only going to cause like 1 or 2 wounds to each other normally, unless you're running something like Iron Arm. Most of the time that's not going to be the instant kill roll of 6 either on the Paragon Blade. So you want to have something that actually will fuck them up. And a Thunderhammer does that. It concusses them, it drops them down to the initiative, initiative dumb. And now you've got the advantage next turn. You can try and cut them down before they get a chance to cut you down with your Paragon Blade. Or you can keep hitting them with Thunderhammer if you didn't kill them the first time out, which against Toughness 4 it will, and against Toughness 5 it does the concussion. So the Thunderhammer Paragon Blade is like your heavy cake and you eat it 2 combo weapons. Now if you went the Power Fist Paragon Blade, well, you get the bonus attack and the Strength 8. Now the Power Fist Paragon Blade is better for like a Terminator, in which case though, take a Chain Fist, because then you get the 2d6 arm hit against vehicles. So, and if you got the Thunderhammer on a 1,000 Suns Praetor with Iron Arm, that's Strength 10. So you run to a vehicle, hit it with that Thunderhammer. It's like 4's to glance a Land Raider or a Spartan, 5's to pen it. You're just gonna fuck its shit up. Now, if you got a 1,000 Suns Praetor with, this is in theory, a specialist weapon of some sort, like a Power Fist, a Paragon Blade, digital lasers, on a bike with warp speed, you're looking at, 4 attacks base, +1 for digital lasers, +1 for the charge bonus, +3 from warp speed takes you up to 9 attacks, and +1 for the 2 weapons, so that's 10 attacks. 10 attacks, that will be at initiative 8, weapon skill 6. Wow, talk about fucking brutal. I don't really take the Paragon Blade on my 1,000 Suns. If I'm brutally honest, it's a fantastic weapon that's overused because every army has one. Instead, I like to take Legion weapons, but since 1,000 Suns Khopesh swords, these really unique and interesting curved swords, since they don't have any fucking rules, and apparently Ahriman's massive staff, apparently that's a Force Axe, got me fucked. I guess it looks like a halberd. I try and take Legion weapons, so like I use the Dao or the 2-handed glaive for the White Scars, or if I'm Emperor's Children, I use the Phoenix Spear. I think the Legion weapon is more fluffy. The Paragon Blade and the fact that, you strike at initiative, at AP2 at all times, and the 6 to wound just instant kills, that's too much for me. It's too cliche, and I try and stay away from cliche. That's why I use Destroyers in my Raven Guard. Not only because they were good, I found tactics that worked for them, and the right Legion, they were fucking fantastic. But use the models other people don't use. Don't just adhere to, well, every army needs, 3 tactical squads with 3 Land Raider Proteuses, and then just max the fucking Terminators out, take Pride of the Legion, all the rules. No, try and just be unique and creative. I think I get half the points I do at painting competitions from my player's choice, not because of my painting skills, because people go, it's an interesting army, Macca. Hey, you've used Vorax on your Praevian instead of like Castellix with Darkfire cannons, or you went Iron Warriors, but you didn't just go 3 squads of 10 Siege Tyrants like that guy on the other table. That seriously happened. A guy had 3 squads of Siege Tyrants on another table. with Praevian consoles, 2 Praevian consoles with 3 Darkfire Cannon Castellax. That was and a Typhon Super Heavy Tank. That is the most fucking whack army I've ever seen in 30k, and I couldn't believe it when I saw that army. Oh Jesus, yeah. If you rock up and you've got like another friend of mine, Aaron, runs the Sheep's Fall and Hope blog. He runs a whole bunch of Wordbearer stuff, but he uses things like the Marigal Dreadnought. Not good. That came out. They had really good shit hot rules, experimental rules, and then the minute they got their proper rules in a book, it was just fucking terrible. But he runs one anyway, and you know what? I'd vote for his arm any day in a painting comp because A, he paints really well, and B, he uses those units that people don't just automatically take. Same as like I see Ultramarines players all the time with, Invictus Suzerain and Praetor and the Promus Medicae all together in a Spartan Assault Tank. And it's just the most like vanilla, boring style of play. It doesn't mean I won't suggest it to people because it's an effective tactic and it's great for new people to the heresy, new people to the hobby, because it's such an easy sort of power wish fulfillment tactic. But it's like if I see an Ultramarines army rock up and they've got like Locutara Storm squads with the basically your Vanguard veterans, your close combat assault marines, veterans with like higher weapon skill, hand flamers, plasma pistols, whatever, whatever they want to take at the time, I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. And then if they've got like the thousands, they got like those Ultramarines breaches with like the 1,000 gladiuses and combat shields, I'll be like, geez, that's pretty fluffy, If I see like World Eaters and they're running like Rampages, I go, geez, Rampages aren't very good, but you made the effort to take a lot of them, like that's pretty cool. If they're doing cheesy tactics like putting a bunch of Rampages with Apothecaries and outflanking Spartans or something, yeah, then I'm gonna be like, dude, come on. With my White Scars, so like the list I've designed for my White Scars is like a Praetor with a glaive on a bike with a Cyber Eagle. In fact, I just built that model today on his jet bike. And then I've got like 2 squads of 3 Outriders for my troops, bolt guns, and glaives on the sergeants, because A, they're a fucking shit hot weapon, and B, makes the sergeants really stand out. Then I've got a single squad of 3 jet bikes as well in my troops, because I'm running the Rite of War, where all jet bikes, Chogorian Brotherhood I think it's called, where all your bikes become scoring basically, so it moves me out of the fast attack slot, which frees up the fast attack slot. Then I've got a Xiphon, the flyer. I've got 3 squads of 3 jet bikes in heavy support, one with plasma cannons, one with multi-melters, one with Volkite Calvarians. So I've got a mix that way in my mind of all these different types of bikes, where I've got heavy bolters in the troops, and I've got the 3 different other heavy weapons in heavy support. I didn't like max out plasma cannons or something cheesy like that. I didn't attach Apothecaries to them. No, they're just stock. Then I've got a command squad to go with my Praetor. Now, jet bike command squad, again, very, very expensive. Don't really bring that much to the table. You'd be realistically better off most of the time by not taking the command squad on jet bikes and instead just taking normal jet bikes, upgrading the crap out of them and attaching them to your Praetor and making, Death Stars that kind of way. But I didn't do that. And I've got a couple, to finish off the list, I've got a couple of Javelins. Javelin Land Speeders. So, 2 squads of 3 Outriders, 1 squad of Sky Hunter jet bikes, 3 squads of jet bikes in heavy support with different heavy weapons. I've got a Xiphon Interceptor, 2 Javelins, a Praetor, and a command squad. And I may stick a Librarian on a bike in there, only because I couldn't put a Siege Breaker on a bike in there, which would have been great. But they can't take bikes, as I quickly discovered when I tried to run up the army, so I completely forgot they couldn't take bikes. I was like, fuck. Yeah. Was it that? Or you couldn't join it? I can't even remember now. It's been too long. But yeah, anyway. It's just me generally musing about like the heresy, the Thousand Sons and stuff, and these are all the thoughts I sort of have after I do these episodes. So I wouldn't mind doing more of this. Like, I've got a lot of thoughts about the Sons of Horus, so if people are interested, I'll do this like after the episode. Maybe I'll call it after the episode. I'll do these videos with my thoughts on that. The other little thing with my White Scars, by the way, before I finish this up, I'm working on a Shattered Legion and White Scars force, which maybe I'll ally with Iron Hands, because that's pretty true to the novels. And I had this idea that like Hibu Khan, who's one of the disgraced Sagya Mazan, which are like... So, there was this, again, spoilers, some of the White Scars were going to side with Horus, some of them wanted to side with the Emperor. And the guys who wanted to side with Horus was pretty much just through misdirection. It wasn't because they were actual Chaos supporters. They just thought that the Emperor's side was wrong through lies and deceit. And the minute they sort of figured out this wasn't the case, they repented their actions, and the Primarch gave them a penance, which was basically, you're all now just suicide squads. And so the White Scars made these units called Sagya Mazan. And he just sent them away from the Legion. You are disgraced. Go out and kill as many traitors as you can before you yourself die. And then a really, really good series of stories. One of them, who I painted a replica of, has this awesome like kabuki meets sort of European war paint meets American Indian war paint, where he's got like this like white skull face paint on, kind of like the Crow, but with like the skull eye sockets. And but again, he's got the kabuki style with like the rosy red cheeks painted on. It's like some sort of geisha face. It's really interesting to look at. It's kind of like the puppet in Saw. But I painted him up, Hibu Khan, and he fights Horus Axaman in one of the short stories called Little Horus. Little Horus Axaman, by the way, is one of the primary commanders of the Sons of Horus Legion. It's like Horus's third in charge after Ezekiel Abaddon. So they're fighting against the Iron Hands, and he like fucks up this Iron Hand. He's like, yeah, you're just Iron Hands. We've killed plenty of you at Isfahan. And the Iron Hand's just like, oh yeah, well you just fell into a trap. And the next thing you know, this White Scar jumps out at him, and he learns very quickly the White Scars are really good at fighting, because he gets his face sliced off. Yes, he gets a Chogorian shave from the White Scars, which is pretty funny to me, especially calling it a Chogorian shave. Come on. That copyright Macca 2013, I think, or something, when I first read that story, because it was from one of the really early Horus Heresy anthologies. Anyway, in Sagya Mazan, by the time we get to Path of Heaven, spoilers, heavy spoilers ahead, the Khan is like, I've lost so many troops fighting this guerrilla war for the last few years against the traitors, I need to call in my Sagya Mazan to rejoin the Legion. He's a bit reluctant to do it, but he does it. And they rock back up, and Khan's like, look, still haven't really forgiven you guys, but I need your help here. So he goes to Fleet of Terror, and he's basically attacked by most of the might remaining of the Emperor's children and the Death Guard. So he's fucked. It's 2 against 1. White Scars are stuffed. He knows he can't win this battle, but he comes up with this trap. He abandons the flagship, the White Scars Gloriana class battleship. He abandons it, because Mortarion would never think that the Khan would abandon something he loves so much, his flagship. So he flees to one of his other strike cruisers, and Mortarion and all his Death Shroud and Grave Wardens and all his elite Terminators troops, like 1,000, teleport onto the White Scars flagship. Mortarion's like, I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. And then he's like, huh, ship's kind of empty. What happened? And then the shields go up on the ship, and he realizes it's a fucking trap. And then the Sagya Mazan death squads jump out. Now, Mortarion was the guy who lied to the Sagya Mazan in the first place and convinced them to join Horus's side. So these were the guys that he convinced to join Horus that were now fighting him. Talk about insult, right? The insult to injury part is now because they're attacking him. So they try to kill Mortarion. The guys who he thought were on his side in the White Scars Legion are now attacking him. They've put up their shields and they're planning to self-destruct the ship to kill Mortarion. So Mortarion has to fight for his life to try and get out of this trap. And the whole time it's happening, the White Scars are getting cut down. They're laughing because they laugh in the face of death. How fucking awesome is that? Anyway, I'm back with the Outer Circle. This is my thoughts on Thousand Suns, and I guess White Scars as well, because They're the allies of the Thousand Sons, and it's just a real shame that the Horus Heresy game doesn't reflect this at all with the Allies Matrix. Anyway, I'm back at the Outer Circle. Let me know what you thought of this sort of after the episode, and I'll see you all next time.